All right, good morning again, everyone, and welcome back to the KSR YouTube channel. It's Tuesday here in the shop, wrapping up, and we've been slamming here in the shop, and I haven't filmed the whole ton, but going to the next little bit here. Definitely on that one. All you guys watch the heck out of our videos with Mullet. We know the deal, but we're gonna get its Turbo 400 installed in it later this week so that we can load the car up for the Performance Racing Industry Trade Show, better known as the PRI show, that happens next weekend. So we'll be getting that taken care of and headed to the PRI show early next week. And then Spencer's car is in disassembly mode. We got CJ working on that, taking it all apart. And another one in disassembly mode is also Sean's. So like you guys have seen, and you can see now, this we need to send out and have powder coated. So a lot of times when we build a car, it goes together, kind of gets proven a little bit, and then we take it back apart for the final fit and finish, make it pretty, make sure nothing needs major changing. So that's what's going on with this. All of this will be off at the powder coat shop tomorrow. Hopefully have it back by end of the week, next week. But while that's gone, Travis and I will be working on this. And I guess I'll show you real quick what we got going on. So the Turbo 400 case is in it, and you can see we're touching right here. Can you see that? Yeah. So touching right there, and that is without the 1-inch spacer block in it that Mullet's transmission has because of the lockup torque converter. So along with it touching basically right here, you can see we've also got to worry about these deals here, these fittings and hoses. Definitely not going to mess any of that stuff up. It's there for a reason. So we've got to get that installed, change the wiring around to match this transmission versus what we were doing with the old Powerglide stuff. So kind of mocked it up. Even had, well, that got all twisted up when we were rolling it around. But had this kind of mocking up to make sure the drive shaft was going to clear everywhere. And we also measured for a drive shaft, which is over there in that white box. So we've got a new drive shaft here for it. And we start putting that in tomorrow. So the rest of this video is going to be the Q&A that I talked to you guys about a little while back. A bunch of you sent in your questions, and I'm going to get to answer those right now. So stay tuned. All right, well, while you're here, please subscribe to the channel and give us a comment and a like. I try to get down there in the comments and reply to as many of you guys as I can. And if you need any KSR merch, you know, we got our usual hats, shirts, stickers, hoodies, bunch of stuff on the website. That's winwithksr.com. And something that we just recently set up here that's gonna benefit a lot of you guys is if you go to usaweld.com, that is HTP America, which is the welder that we use. That is their main website. And when you go to checkout, use WinWithKSR as your code, and you will get a 5% discount. You know, that helps you guys out, which is awesome. Everybody, discounts are nice for the Christmas season. So definitely try and use that. Anytime you need some welding stuff, we get all of our filler rod, all of our torches, you know, cables, because we accidentally break one every now and then, like our TIG torch cables. In fact, I just recently made an order and used the discount code myself. So definitely you guys go ahead and use that if you need any welding stuff. Glad that HTP wanted to set that up with us and benefits you guys. So something we can kind of give back to you guys. So on to the Q&A. Let's see what we got. We actually did kind of a spreadsheet on this deal. Well, first question. So what trans is going into Mullet? It's a Mark Mickey Turbo 400 with a lockup option. It's a killer piece, and it's got some different dump valve features on it that I actually need to call them about to verify what all that stuff is on the side over there. Make sure I wired up right, and then we'll be hitting the track with it. Not next week, but hopefully the week after PRI. Should be at the track with it, since it's going to be at PRI. But yeah, Turbo 400 without the overdrive. I think that's another question that I saw later on down in here. So no overdrive this time. So we're just going to use the lockup torque converter on the street for low load situations, which will give it plenty of, still be able to go 75, 80 miles an hour on the interstate or whatever the speed limit is. So that'll be that. It is a 3-speed, which is another question. And first gear, I believe, so on this paper here. So first gear is a 190 ratio, second gear is a 140 ratio, and third gear is 1-to-1, just like the Power Glide. In the Power Glide, well, in Cletus's Power Glides, first gear was a 1.80 first gear. So basically now we're gonna have a little bit more starting line ratio with the lower first gear, which should be great because it's got a 340 rear gear in the back, and that's a really, really long first gear. And to be honest, it makes converter selection and converter specking a little tough. I mean, I'm not a converter guy, but the converter guys, that long gear in the back really puts a lot of load into the torque converter. So this is going to help out a little bit with the 190 first gear versus the 180 first gear, and then second gear being a 140, it's almost like we get a gear in the middle of first and second gear for what the Power Glide was. So should be pretty fast. Should be faster for sure. So next question: have any top secret plans for the Christmas tree drags? Well, right now we got to get Soccer Mom back together and make it to the Christmas tree drags. That's priority number one. Not going to do anything crazy. I am going to try and re-engineer my spring setup a little bit to try and hold the tree up for a little bit longer instead of it just flopping down on the ground. But we'll see if we can make that work. All right, next question: when are you pulling the Cutlass down from storage? Honestly, as soon as I can. I'm not gonna lie, things have been backed up pretty bad here for a while, and we've got some new guys coming on. You guys have seen Drew. So Drew's coming on to start next week, and then going to be trying to get some of this stuff out of here. We've absolutely decided not to take any new projects in before the end of this year, so that we can focus on getting my car down and starting the build process on it. We actually have to go back and redo some things that I did 15 years ago when I took the car apart. Took it apart in 2005, 2006. Yeah, sometime way back then. And just, life happened, and my car wasn't any kind of priority. So got married, started a family, got divorced, business, all that stuff. Life rearranges your plans sometimes, and the things that have been going on in the shop, a lot of them have taken longer than we kind of thought they were going to. Even though we do this stuff all the time, every project is unique enough that it seems like they always take longer than you think they're going to take. But very soon, if I don't get it down by the end of this year, I'm going to be pretty upset, because it's due for some work. And the engine is almost done up at BTR in New York. So not the BTR in Kentucky, the BTR owned by Bill Travato, who is an Oldsmobile master when it comes to building Oldsmobile engines, because I would still have an Oldsmobile engine in my Oldsmobile Cutlass. So different than a lot of other builds you see, I kind of go way back in the Oldsmobile forums online. And back when the car came apart, it had a small block Oldsmobile in it, 355 cubic inches, and it ran some 1140s on pump gas back in 2005. And then we had a little bit of nitrous on it. I think it ran 1080s, 1090s with some nitrous on it, all on pump gas, drive to the track. It was my only car up until 2004 or 5, and I had bought my first truck. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with Oldsmobile in it. It will have either a Turbo 400 or a Power Glide. The Power Glide that's in Soccer Mom is actually mine. So might commandeer that to put back in the car, or might just order up a Turbo 400 because I kind of like the idea of the 3-speed stuff for quarter-mile racing. And gonna have a turbo on it, of course, because everything needs a turbo. But beyond that, Holley fuel injection, coil on plug, all the data that I can put on it, EGTs, possibly dual fuel system. At least I'll have the ability to switch to a street system, kind of like we're gonna do on Soccer Mom, so that I can do the drag and drive events and I'll just unplug the mechanical pump or take the belt off the mechanical pump to do the drag and drive event, because I do want to do that with my car too. Obviously be a little while before that one's done. Next question, when is Soccer Mom going to get a bigger engine and turbo setup? Well, we're kind of curious to see just how far we can push the 5.3, and especially seeing that it's not hurt as bad as we thought it was. I think we're going to keep running that engine a little bit longer. We've got some ideas to do a larger bore engine, maybe a 388, possibly a 427, but I kind of prefer the 388 stuff. Be really strong, do an aftermarket block deal instead of the stock block. But probably gonna do that. Stick with the 5.3 for a little while, and then maybe next year, we may slide another engine into it next year, because we know there's only so many runs in a combination like that with the stock block. It's got a really good rotating assembly in it, but at least it's been hanging in there so far. All right, here's another good question. It would be cool for you to do a project with the less expensive Holley Sniper standalone ECU and see what you can do to max it out before needing to go to the Dominator platform. Well, we actually have a car we're gonna do that on. So my partner, Tad, he has a 68 Camaro that is actually in storage right now, but we've got a Sniper X-Flow system for it, and we are going to be doing a complete install video right up on it, on its conversion from carburetor to the Sniper system. So stay tuned for that. All right, next question. Actually, we got a couple here about me. How did this journey begin? I guess you could all say started really with my first car. So we got my first car when I was 15 years old. I actually bought it from one of my dad's friends that he worked with, and bought it for $200. Kind of started out just with little things to it first. It had a 260 cubic inch Oldsmobile V8. Yeah, really, really tiny engine, and it was better served as a boat anchor. I want to say that thing made like 140 horsepower, and it was an absolute dud of an engine. And it ran 1990s or 19, like it was slow the first time I took it to the track. And then we chipped it all the way down, swapped it to a 350, swapped the transmission, swapped the torque converter, changed the gear, all the list of things you do to chip away at performance on a car, until it got down into the mid-11s. And then it didn't have a roll bar in it. Took it down to change some things in the engine, build a different engine, upgrade the chassis to like a 25 spec chassis, which the car now is 25.3 spec. So plenty fast, or it's got tons of chassis to be able to go way faster. But that's kind of how it all started for me. And my dad, his first hot rod was an Oldsmobile, so it kind of worked out just that my first hot rod was also an Oldsmobile, and I plan on keeping it, or keeping some form of it, forever. Like, if you guys didn't know, my Cutlass that's up in storage, that is my first car. And yeah, gonna build it up here for all you guys to see on the channel. What does KSR stand for? Kevin Smith Racing. Wanted something that was easy to say when I was coming up with the business name. KSR, and then the performance and fabrication was just kind of like an extra definition to what we do. So that's kind of where all that comes from. Did I go to tech school or apprentice at a shop or self-taught? Quite a bit of self-taught or self-learned. I was fortunate to have some friends that were involved with the racing stuff. People like Will Stevenson that I'm partners with in Soccer Mom. He had his Camaro, learned a bunch of stuff from him. Also another guy that you might have seen in one of the videos, his name was Eric Kenward. If you look him up on the internet, he's got a super fast Malibu station wagon, and traveled with him, learned quite a bit from him. And one thing that kind of ties all of us together is a company called TRZ Motorsports, which you guys have heard me talk about before. Mike that runs TRZ Motorsports, he was very instrumental in my TIG welding learning and progression, and gave me a bunch of work when I needed kind of going off and doing my own thing. Gave me a lot of welding work that I would drive down to Kissimmee, get several crates of work, and then sit in my garage and weld parts all day. And then I'd finish those, take them back down there, pick up another batch. So did that for a little while, and that really helped me kind of hone my welding stuff. And I guess I've always kind of had an eye for fit and finish on stuff, and also making it kind of function well, or at least what I think is well. So yeah, that's kind of how I got started, and how I guess you could say I was an apprentice for TRZ. So I learned quite a bit from them. Let's see, on to the next one. Will I be participating in Sick Week? Yes, with Soccer Mom. All right, a couple of questions about the 300ZX that you've seen in the videos. So does the 300ZX next to the dyno have a VG30 in it, which is the stock engine, for those of you that don't know? It does not. It has no engine in it. What that car is actually a spare chassis to the 300ZX road race car that we built back in 2010. You guys haven't seen that one on the channel unless you go way, way back, and there's some in-car footage, I think, on the channel, like way back. But we need to dig that thing back out. It's the car we rent and race in the Champ Car Endurance Series. It does have, the car when it is built, will have the VG30 engine in it. For the series that we run it in, that makes the most sense. At least we feel like that makes the most sense for us, so that's what we'll stick back in there. Well, here's another one about me. What is your background and also the alcohol car team? Question mark. So I've just always kind of been a car guy, starting with my first car. I say a lot of this stuff all kind of started with my first car. And probably one of the things that helped shape some of my detail-oriented type stuff, I guess you could say, I worked for a company called Metal Container Corporation. It was here in Gainesville years ago. My dad worked there, and we made pop-top lids on, like, for all the Anheuser-Busch beer cans. We also made them for PepsiCo, Coca-Cola. So Metal Container was one of 4 companies in the United States that made these lids. I think they might have shipped them worldwide, but maybe not. But we, at that plant, it ran 24 hours a day. So I was on a, kind of like a shift work there. Worked there from when I was like 18 to 21, I think. 18, 21, 22. So at the plant, with it being an Anheuser-Busch owned company, at least back then, everything was extremely clean, extremely neat. The production stuff, they had, machinery presses that were smashing this aluminum at 660 strokes per minute, making 3 lids each time that it hit a stroke. So the lid would progress its way through the machine, I think for basically 10 different operations. It's been so long ago now, I really don't remember. But basically, each time the machine would hit, it does some kind of stamping, and then as the machinery head would come up, the lid moves one slot, gets hit again, and so it's just constantly doing that at 660 strokes per minute. And there was 11 of those presses, and by the end of the day, by the time everything worked out, we were basically making almost 30 million lids per day. That's a lot of lids if you think about how many lids we were making, and there was also 3 other plants in the United States that were making the same thing. So left there and went to work for another company, actually working with it's like a kind of a speed shop, selling parts and installing little stuff, and had a desire to learn, always be learning, I guess, is kind of my thing. Even now, I spend quite a bit of time reading. I've actually got a complete instruction manual at home for a new fuel injection system right now that I'm reading through when I can, to try and learn that system so I can, you know, just have a broader knowledge base on the stuff that we're doing. Lots of reading online, technical papers, just all kinds of different stuff. Basically, I feel like, you know, for myself especially, I want to always be learning. I never want to be sitting still just riding the stuff that I already know. I want to continually be learning, because, you know, if you can always be learning something, you're going to be better than you were last week. So kind of like how I said with my car, it's a lot of the work that I did 15 years ago. I want to cut that out and redo it to my standards for today. So the alcohol team was something that came about. A friend of mine that had some experience working with those alcohol teams. It was just a one race deal for the Gator Nationals, and I was the guy that dropped the oil pan and changed the rod bearings every run, as well as, you know, kind of helped out where I could with other parts of the car. It was a blown alcohol car. The guy had actually won the U.S. Street Nationals the previous year, and we struggled at the Gator Nationals that year. Like, I think we went out first round, like lots of struggles, had some big weather swings if I remember right, and actually spun the tires last round of qualifying shot, ended up on the bottom half of the ladder and got taken out first round. I think that's how it went. I'd have to go back and look at all that. So how did I learn to wire like I did on Mullet? Kind of goes right along with the always wanting to continue learning stuff. So years ago, I went through the Holly EFI training course and learned the importance of wiring when it comes to these electronic fuel injection systems. And all of the data really intrigued me on collecting all the data to help make the car perform better, and really just having the data to see how things work and how they respond and how they react, and which I guess that's probably the same thing. But I've always been kind of a person that likes to see how things work. My mom used to always tell me about, we went to a theme park when I was 8-9 years old, and it was Universal Studios in Orlando, and we're riding the King Kong ride where you're riding on this trolley, and I'm hanging out looking at how the mechanics are working the thing up in the ceiling instead of really enjoying the ride. It's just kind of the personality that I have, whatever. But in going through that EFI course and learning the importance of the wiring, I wanted to do it right. And literally it's not difficult to do. You know, there's proper practices for wiring stuff, but when you just try to boil it down to be as simple as you can do it, you know, you're just connecting some wires. And if you make sure that you do wire 1 in the right spot, you wire your 5 volt, you wire your ground, if you're doing a 5 volt sensor, and then you've got a single wire back to the ECU for the return, run that into the ECU, do your programming for the sensor, and you're off to the races with a new data channel. So as far as the neatness of it, I think that just kind of, I kind of look at things and I kind of lay them out where I think they will route the best or look the best, be most serviceable. I'm always trying to think ahead to, you know, potentially working on the car or something we can do to make the car easier to work on in the future, or, you know, say we've got to take the valve cover off. How easy is it to get the coils unplugged to get the valve cover off, or, you know, something to that effect, to make sure that not only does the wiring function well, but the wiring is also easy to service and easy to work with. Is it possible to hear a background from each member of your crew at some point? Yep, I think we're going to do that, especially now once we get Drew in and established. we'll kind of go through and give a little bit of history on everybody, maybe show you a little bit of their cars. So it'll be something we'll kind of do a, you know, KSR, the people of KSR video, something like that. So that'll be something we'll definitely do in the future. Want to start a fabrication shop? Any advice? Make sure you're really good at what you do to begin with, and be fair with people, but also, you know, also charge fairly for your work. And when I say that, I'm saying don't give your work away. If you do quality work, you can charge a quality price for it. One of the big mistakes I made early on, and I even make it to this day, occasionally, but I'm getting better, is we undercharge for the time that we put into something. And if somebody's bringing you a project, they're bringing it to you because they either don't have the time to do it themselves or they can't do it themselves. So if somebody's going to bring you a project, do it the best you can do it and do it as quickly as you can do it, but bill for that time. That's kind of one of the best advice I can give for really any business. Anybody kind of starting their own business, I feel like, you know, I'm not saying overcharge or screw people or anything like that. No, definitely don't want to do that, because that'll always come back and bite you. But if you put 5 hours into a car or a project, making some little tiny widget, and you look at it when the day's done and you're like, well, that shouldn't have taken 5 hours. But if you feel like you put an honest effort into it and you can't see how you would have shaved time off for that project anywhere, charge the 5 hours for it. You know, you're providing a service for someone that can't or didn't want to do the job for themselves. And at the end of the day, everybody's got to eat. There's a whole lot of overhead that goes with having a shop. So yeah, that's what I got to offer about that. Hopefully it helps you out, or helps out anybody wanting to start their own business. All right, so I'm gonna do one more question to wrap up this video, and kind of gonna wrap everything together for where we're at right now and what I'm doing right now. But the question is, how did you start your YouTube channel and why? Well, I actually started my YouTube channel, I think if you look back, I actually started it in 2009, and it was more just to put stuff on the internet that we were doing, some of the racing. I mean, I think you can dig way back on the channel and go back and see some of the original videos that I had posted. And wasn't like to make money, wasn't to have a career, just kind of to preserve the memories of things that I was doing, friends were doing, and kind of just done a couple of videos here and there. And when life got busy, kind of stepped away from doing it nearly as much, because it does take quite a bit of time to edit these videos, and especially back then I wasn't doing it enough to really get efficient with the editing process. And you could argue that I could still be better, or like I said, I'm always trying to learn new ways to do things, so I feel like I could still get better with my editing process. But all of you guys mostly know me from here recently, because we've gone from, you know, I think I had maybe 2,000, maybe even 1,000 subs back 3 years ago. And hopefully with this video, we're gonna cross 250,000 subs, which thank you guys for all of that. Pretty excited to be a quarter of the way to 1 million subs, which really mind-boggling to me, but here we are. But the main person I owe the success of the YouTube channel to is Cletus McFarland. And kind of got involved with him. You know, Jeremy from Faster Proms put us together. And this was back when he, I think, had 300,000 subs, 400,000 subs. This was probably 4 years ago, 5 years, I think 4 years ago. Back when Leroy first got Holla EFI on it. That's when I met Cletus. You know, kind of got to know him a little bit at that deal. We started working with him occasionally. He was growing his channel quite a bit, and just things kept falling together where we ended up working with each other and kept wanting to help him out. And in working with him, he kind of pushed me a little bit to start or re-energized my channel, I guess you could say, just because he told me he saw the potential of a YouTube channel here. So, you know, thanks to him and him helping me along the way with content and, you know, different questions that I had with how to do certain things, or, you know, where I should put my energy into the YouTube channel. It's gotten us to where we are now. And obviously the mullet build was a huge contributor to the channel. So thanks still go to him for that. And it's just worked out that a lot of you guys have latched on and you're coming along on this ride with us. We're gonna keep it going as long as we can keep it going. Don't ever plan on stopping at this current point in time. Hoping to maybe even get more involved with the YouTube stuff. Like I'm trying to get to where I'm doing a video every other day is my goal. But along with that is I've got to be better at filming so that I'm not wasting hours and hours and hours editing out all of the stuff that's just nonsense that makes a video. So even like this video right here, I'll probably have 2-3 hours in editing, you know, so I'm hoping that to get that to where everything works more efficiently and we can keep bringing you guys content that you like to see and get to work on my car, which will be exciting, especially for me. But yeah, we're gonna mix some things up. Actually, maybe doing a boat video here pretty soon. A little bit different flavor for the channel. So it's not gonna be like the video you just saw on Cletus's channel with the boat challenge. This is more just kind of my video with, you know, lots of different camera angles that I think would be kind of cool on a boat that my dad just bought. All right, so that's gonna wrap up this video. Hopefully kept you guys along for the ride all the way here to the end. I'm hoping that I answered some of your questions. There's a few here that didn't get to answer. Kind of some of them just kind of I could answer part of the question by answering another question. So didn't feel like I needed to re-answer the same types of questions 12 different times. But appreciate everybody watching and subscribing. Hopefully we're over 250,000 subscribers by this video. And we're gonna keep this thing going. Thanks again. See you guys next time.